Sonic Superstars must succeed, and here's why. Good afternoon, morning, evening, or night, guys, gals, and pals. Sonic Superstars releases in about a week from now, and I think it needs to be a hit, both critically and commercially. Let me explain why. 2022 was the definitive year of Sonic, without competition. We got Origins, which was pretty alright, we got Sonic Movie 2, which was quite successful, we got Sonic Prime, and most importantly, we got Sonic Frontiers. The release of Frontiers, combined with just how stacked 2022 was, and how 2023 continued with that momentum, has led many fans to dub this era we are entering the Renaissance era. And honestly, I really like the sound of that. We had the classic era, we had the adventure era, we had the dark age, we had the meta era, and while I definitely think the definition of these eras can be a bit all over the place, I think they're pretty accurate for the most part. Sonic Frontiers in particular has pretty much led the charge in truly cementing this as the beginning of a Renaissance era. Now, let's be clear here. Frontiers was definitely a commercial success, but critically, yeah, not so much. The general consensus outside the fandom seems to just be, yeah, it's alright, but because it was a step in the right direction and because the expectation for Sonic games is already pretty low, it was seen as a critical success and a return to form for Sonic. Now this is where Superstars comes in. The biggest reason why Superstars must succeed is because Frontiers raised the bar, and by proxy, expectations for the next game. And Frontiers was an open world game, something that the Sonic franchise had never tackled before. Superstars, on the other hand, is another 2D platformer, something Sonic Team has been doing since literally the beginning of the franchise. And the last 2D platformer that released was Sonic Mania, one of the most critically acclaimed Sonic games of all time. So not only does Superstars have to contend against Frontiers, but also it has to contend against Sonic Mania, which was one of the most universally adored Sonic games ever released. But it gets worse. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is releasing in less than a week after Superstars. Now this is a huge problem for Superstars both commercially and critically. I already talked about it in my previous video, but Sonic fans who don't want people to compare Superstars and Mario Wonder are being incredibly unrealistic. Sonic will always be compared to Mario because his entire inception was a marketing foil to Mario. The comparison between Mario and Sonic will always exist, and now it's only going to be heightened because both Superstars and Wonder are 2D platformers. And gaming journalists and critics know this. Of course they're going to use the comparison to drive clicks and increase engagement. This discussion pitting these two games against each other is inevitable, so just accept that it's definitely going to happen. And realistically, Mario Wonder will be more critically and commercially successful than Sonic Superstars. But that doesn't mean Superstars cannot be deemed successful on its own. Superstars needs to be of a high enough quality to prove that Sonic can once again stand beside Mario. Superstars needs to prove that Frontiers was not just a fluke and that real care is being put into his franchise again. For an era to be truly defined, it needs consistency. The Renaissance era can only truly begin if Superstars improves on the success of Frontiers. I remember during the few months between the release of Mania and Forces just how much goodwill there was for the Sonic franchise. It seemed that just for a moment, Sonic would return to his status as a gaming icon. And then Forces released and it was terrible. The Renaissance era as a concept is really interesting because it's so indicative of the inconsistent quality of Sonic as a franchise. When Colors and Generations came out, there was a similar belief that Sonic was back on track as a gaming franchise, but after Lost World and especially Sonic Boom, we went right back to square one. The one thing the Sonic franchise needs right now is consistency, and the success of Superstars will be the first of many steps in achieving that. And honestly, I think Superstars will succeed. It has no reason not to. Sonic as a brand right now is pretty powerful considering just how much multimedia has kept the franchise in the public consciousness and popular among kids, so the commercial success is pretty much guaranteed. And as for the critical reception, from what we've seen so far of Superstars, it looks like a fun time. Anyway, we'll see what happens soon enough. Until next time, I'm out of here.